So this is the finest location for the finest machine. Dave, tell me a little bit about Glass Glows Media and what you do.
Yeah, so Glass Glows Media, we have a YouTube channel. We've been going since about 2008 now. It all kind of started off when I think it was my wife or somebody just filmed me in one of my original dune buggies, just driving through the backyard, and I thought I'd throw it on YouTube and just kind of see what happened. And you know, video quality is pretty poor and everything, but I threw it up and people started kind of watching it, and I just kind of went from there. Did another video, and then I started doing more intricate mixes. Eventually started getting into the GoPros, yeah, mixing videos to music, and it just kind of kept going from there. Eventually got into DSLR stuff recently, trying to up the quality. We had a drone for a while, trying to do some drone shots. So it's just been kind of a slow progression. We do ATV videos, but we also have other video series. We have our Challenger up there. I've done some electric car videos, some more things that are just more artistic. A lot of how-to videos in the shop, working with machining and stuff like that. So it's kind of a big mix of everything. It's just kind of it's almost like a summary of kind of like what we are, like our life kind of thing. The hobbies that we have, the things that we enjoy doing. And it's all kind of, you know, cinematic videos and things like that.
So you've intertwined. You started off with smaller cameras, smaller dune buggies.
Yes.
And now your small cameras are expensive big cameras.
Yes, exactly.
And just like that, your small like dune buggies turned into this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the very first one I built it was a buddy and he had a whole ride-on tractor, and I had a little go-kart that my grandparents had bought me. So he wanted to come riding with me in the sand pit behind his house. So we took this old ride-on tractor, built a cage for it, and just kind of rigged up a drive system out of this old ride-on tractor. I mean, it kind of worked, but it didn't last very long.
So just like boys and adults, everything has to get bigger, and the progression is this.
What happened was his machine was faster than mine.
Of course.
I'm like, well, there's no way I'm going to build one for him. He's going to be faster than me.
Of course.
So I ended up building the very first dune buggy for myself. So it had a little Yamaha 250 air-cooled engine from I think it was a 1982 Yamaha Exciter. A little 5-speed in it. I think it made like 20 horse. It was a good machine, or a good engine for that machine anyway. But yeah, the machining tools I had at the time was like a hand grinder, a drill press, and a Princess Auto welder.
But you made it work.
And I made this pretty neat little dune buggy. And then it was just me going out by myself, so I wanted to get my wife involved. So I ended up building her another machine. At that point, I upgraded my tools in my shop. I ended up buying a lathe. So now I could make more intricate parts. Build quality was a lot better. And then it just kind of kept going on from there. After I built the one for her, I went back and rebuilt another one for mine. Basically the same design and layout as the one I had, but just kind of made all the improvements on it that I've kind of learned over time. At that point, I bought a milling machine and a metal bandsaw and, you know, a better welder, and things just kind of kept snowballing.
Everything. So your equipment, your cameras, your toys, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger until this. What's the name of this project?
So the original plan for this actually was, after the last dune buggy I made for myself, I wanted to build myself an on-road dune buggy, if you will. So something really high, large independent suspension with that bike motor. But when we had the kids, I wanted to get the kids involved, so I kind of parked that. I took all the pieces that I had accumulated, so the suspension, the rims, the engine. I took all those parts that I'd accumulated for the big dune buggy that I wanted to build, and then I came up with this. So I spent about 2 or 3 months on the computer just designing this whole thing in a program called SketchUp, just a free 3D program. And then there's another free 2D CAD program called DraftSite. So between the two, I was able to completely design all the components for this just in my basement, and went at it. It took me 2 years to build it start to finish. Took a lot longer than I expected.
So you started off, you have the frame, which is square tube chassis for the most part.
So what I like to do is I like to start with square tube on the base, just because it's easier to kind of level things off. And then once I kind of hit up around the roll bar area, I like going round tube. So it's just kind of the look that I've had for all my vehicles, a nice mix of square tube and round tube.
Yeah, the notching can get pretty technical in some places.
I'm not great with notching, so the square tube is nice for that.
So then you have Fox shocks, custom suspension, right? So the A-arms, that's all you, right?
Yeah, the A-arms are completely custom designed. Every A-arm is unique. The left side and the right side.
You can't quite see it, but this is micro burst here.
Micro burst, yeah. So I dubbed this the micro burst 600. The last one I called it the micro burst 250. So I don't know, it's just a name that popped into my head one day.
I like it.
Just kind of went with it.
So how did you figure out all this geometry? So you have these A-arms and you still have to do like axle length and travel, your suspension, right? Because they're gigantic and they're air, right?
So yeah, so those are Fox 2.0 nitrogen air shocks. You can set the pressure with nitrogen. You can set the compression and rebound through the valve stacks inside them.
Over here you've got your collector into what, a cat?
No, that's just
another muffler.
Magnaflow? What the hell is it? Magnaflow?
You had to tune it down that much because you've got a Muzzy after that.
I wanted to keep it pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Like I know these bike motors get pretty loud. I wanted to keep it as quiet as I could so I wouldn't go deaf. So yeah, it flows into. Geez, I forget if it's Magnaflow or Flowmaster.
Flowmaster.
Flowmaster. There we go.
There we go.
Flowmaster into the Muzzy, and yes, so the exhaust is all custom. I couldn't reuse anything other than
you did a great job on the collector
of the bike. Yeah, thank you. Well, I purchased the collector online. I purchased all the the bends online, and then I just kind of sat down and just went at it.
And that's your GSXR 600, right?
Yeah, so that's a GSXR 600. It's a 2002 fuel injected. I think it makes about 115 horsepower. It's only making about 50 foot-pounds of torque, so you really got to rev the snot out of it to start making power.
And what does it rev to?
Well, it revs to 14,500.
That's ridiculous.
You don't start making power until you get about 65. And it's almost like there's a tune in it that after 65, or maybe it's just right like there. The power band or something to that effect. But once you hit 65, that thing just lights up.
Because this thing's made for speed.
Takes off. Exactly. It's meant for high revving.
And over here, this is the part that I'm most impressed by out of everything. So you have your GSXR to a chain drive. What gearbox is that from? Is
so
that
the gearbox, the diff, and then the front diff, that's out of a 2010 Polaris RZR 800.
So a lot of this is Polaris based. That's why you basically call it a Polaris.
So the hubs, the brakes, like the front knuckles and all that stuff is all Polaris RZR 800. And then, so this box and the diff, Polaris RZR 800. And then I'm just, where the CVT belt drive would have been, I've just driven it down into here with my chain drive
gigantic
system.
Chain that you go through like multiple seasons.
Yeah, that's the weakest link, if you will, to this entire system. The chain gets quite hot spinning around there. Yeah. And it gets a lot of mud and a lot of debris in there.
But it definitely works. I've seen you out on the trail.
Yeah,
this thing is haywire.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about belt slipping. I've never actually snapped a chain. I have stretched them quite a bit, but like I've never been stranded out in the bush because of a broken chain. So,
oh god, so you do have four-wheel drive,
yeah,
right?
This thing is great. Four-wheel drive, high-low range.
And you still have your standard winch, and like the front and rear plastics are actually off that 900
Yeah,
platform,
so this
right?
is that's a RZR 900 actually. Front and rear plastics,
which is super crazy. And how did you turn these axles yourself?
Yeah, so these axles are actually custom built. The CV joints for the front are stock RZR 800. The back I've had to upgrade to a larger size.
Yeah.
But I couldn't quite find the length that I wanted with all these components. So I wanted to keep it 64 inches wide, and I couldn't find a combination of aftermarket axles that would give me that. I think it was either going to be 68 or 60. And I didn't like the higher side because I wouldn't fit through some of the gates. I didn't like the lower side because I thought it was too narrow.
Yeah.
So I bit the bullet and I bought myself an indexing head for my mill, and I just learned how to cut splines.
So it's obviously liquid cooled, and you've got the steering rack also out of the RZR?
Yeah, so that's RZR 800 steering rack, and I've added in an aftermarket power steering kit just to make it easier. So the power steering is tucked up underneath in the dash. I picked that up from Royal Distributing.
What size tires are you running?
These are 30-inch tires, CST Behemoths.
Oh, you are on 30s.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Those are 8-ply. They've been pretty good. They're getting a little low now, but I've been running these for a few years.
What did you work out the gear ratio from the powertrain down?
So yeah, so the final gear ratio, if the input of the Polaris box to the output, it's a 7 to 1 gear reduction. And then when I put it into low range, it's about a 14 to 1 gear reduction.
So you're able to use a high RPM speed demon
and
turn it into this 30 spinning side by side.
Yeah, I can spin the back tires pretty good.
And the interior, now you guys have 2 kids.
Yes.
Say hi, mother. There's the mom. And my wife up there.
Yeah, so that was the original intent of this. We wanted to be able to take the family out with this. So I actually have the other bucket seat so I can put in someday. But for now, I just made this seat out of aluminum. My mother-in-law actually sewed the fabrics up for me.
Cool.
We have race quip 5-point harnesses for everybody.
So the kids are super
Keep them nice and safe. They got their handles that are all adjustable.
When the kids aren't there, you have your big photography gear in there.
That's the seat for my photography gear.
Yeah.
When the kids aren't around.
Which are roughly the size of your 2 kids.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But it's nice, you know, we got kind of like a big glove
I'll get around
box
to the other
area.
side here so they can see that.
I tried to incorporate a lot of storage, so I have a big glove box area up in here, lots of storage down in the console area.
So there's your Polaris shifter.
So this is for the Polaris, right? So that's just, anyone that owns a Polaris would recognize this. Park, reverse, neutral, low and high. And then this is the shifter for the GSXR motor. So that's a 6-speed manual transmission. So you'll see down there I've got clutch, brake, gas pedal.
So you choose your like high, for example.
Yep.
Clutch in, and then.
Yeah, exactly. Put that into high, and then start clutching it. So I have 2 neutrals, if you will, but.
Where's this tack from?
So that's the tack from the bike motor itself.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
So what happened was I
look at it. Red line 15, 16,000.
It won't let me push it past.
No,
the electronic limiter will kick in at 14.5.
So you're using the ECU from the GSXR, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all tucked in back kind of in this box area in between the seats. You won't be able to see much.
And look at this thing. So it's just the airbox is really high, which is nice.
Yeah, stock airbox. One of the downsides I have right now is that because the intake is on this side, if I splash a lot of water up, I will suck in, not really suck in, but the air filter gets a little wet and it kind of bogs momentarily.
Let's just snorkel it.
Yeah, I would like to someday relocate this more.
We'll get like your rad up here.
Something like that, hey?
And we'll do a different chain drive, and then you'll be like a 1,000,000 to 1 gear ratio, and we'll just turn it into a mud bogger. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just Mainville ATV style. You can do it.
Yeah.
There's so much going on into this. You spend 2 years of your life, and we're trying to cram it into 15 minutes.
Yeah, it took 2 years to build it. I originally had thought that it would take maybe 8 to 10 months, because the last one I built from my own plans, it took me 6 months to build. When I got into this, I quickly realized just the extra complexity of going double A-arms, front and rear, something I'd never done before.
Right.
4-wheel drive, power steering. Just the complexity of getting that bike motor into the drive system of the Polaris box. There was just so many things that I didn't realize. I ran into some issues with the front suspension geometry as well. So when I was designing the suspension, I took all the mount points off of a RZR 800. So basically these dimensions here, the dimension, well, that's not so much, but just like the overall dimensions I took from the RZR 800, and I essentially just stretched it out because I didn't want to play around with suspension geometry. It's not really something I'm fabulous at.
Because that's your first time doing it.
First time.
You were pretty successful, man.
Yeah, but one thing I noticed after the fact was on the RZR 800, instead of having the mount further back, what they did is they had a smaller A-arm that mounted here. And I thought, well, I'm going to be smart. I'm going to put it back here and make it stronger. But the problem was I ran into a fitment issue with the rack.
Oh, yeah.
So at full droop and full bump, this thing would kind of collide with the A-arm. So I had to kind of arch it a little bit. It's still working pretty good.
Well, yeah, but 2 years of abuse, and here you are still talking about it on a cliff.
Lesson learned, but...
So
yeah, it's going pretty good.
There it is. If you want to know more about this build, you have a whole playlist from start to end, right?
Yeah, so I have 30 videos, like basically from this, starting from a pile of steel to me machining all the different pieces, all the bushings, cutting the axles. I've got 30 videos in the entire series, so you can go back and watch this thing come to life right from nothing to what you see here today.
And I'll make sure it's linked down below.
Yeah.
And thanks for your time.
Yeah,
I appreciate you showing me that.
Thank you so much.
Let's get out of the flies and try not to have this fall off a cliff, or I'm going to have a video following this.
Yeah, I'm going to go viral yet.
So there it is. Here, we're in Mattawa. This is the most western lookout of the VMUDS trail system, and we just cliffside reviewed the microburst.